Hello, hi, a very good afternoon to everyone who are here. So this is Krishnaveni and we've been talking about the story of life on earth and that's biology. Yes, Anthony Abhi, a very happy good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining my session today. So today is Friday, so we're talking about a class 12 topic, that is biodiversity and conservation. So I'm going to finish this topic today. We're not going to drag on as much as it could, but we will make it short and crisp so that more we quickly cover the syllabus, the more we can revise, right? So that is my agenda. So I will quickly finish this chapter today. So this is lecture 2. So already one lecture is over. So where I have given you introduction, where I have told you some interesting things. So today we'll go forward from there and we'll finish this topic. All right. Yes, Harini, a very happy good afternoon. Thank you, Harini, for joining my session today. So guys, please do like, share and subscribe. All right. Yes, Vinu, hi, a very happy good afternoon. So Vinu, today you're on time, very good. Okay, so Vinu, please do like, share and subscribe. So how was my mentee yesterday? So it was about breathing and respiration. Was it fine? Yes? Okay. So now tell me, so usually Saturday 7 to 8 we have an interesting session, right? Live session. So tomorrow do you want me to teach something or do you want me to have a mentee? So tomorrow, do you want me to have a mentee at 7 or do you want me to teach something? So the choice is yours. So please do let me know. Yes, Lokesh sir, a very happy good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining my session. Yes, let me know. So do you want me to have a mentee? Do you want me to revise some chapter or do you want me to discuss important questions? So let me know. So the choice is yours. Accordingly, I will go forward because I have no issues in any of the 3 choices. Okay. So whether you want me to teach a concept, discuss questions or have a mentee. So it's not possible for me to teach as well as have mentee. If I'm teaching a concept, I can discuss the important questions. So that I can do. So in which unit you want me to discuss important questions? So shall we discuss important questions from the structural organization in plants and animals? That is morphology, anatomy and your structural tissues and cockroach. Will that be fine? Yes, so which chapter is, yes, Vinu, yes, taken. So I won't conduct mentee at 6. Either it will be at 6:30 or 7 or at 7:30. So don't worry, okay. Yes, we will discuss questions, okay, fine. So we will discuss questions. So I will let you know on what topic we are discussing questions. Maybe we can discuss questions from ecology itself because by today we'll be done with 3 chapters in ecology. Because questions in ecology are a bit tricky and you tend to go wrong. So we can discuss questions from ecology as well. Or if you want from structural organization. So whichever you say, the choice is yours. Okay, so Vinu says structural. Okay, the others, what are your opinion? So please do let me know so we can quickly be done. Structural organization in animals. Okay, so we'll be just discussing a set of questions. All right, okay. Okay. So tomorrow if the session is from 6:30 to 7:30, is it fine? Or do you want it from 7 to 8? So which is your convenient time? So do let me know. Any lesson done? Okay, so that is your open suggestion. All right, Anthony Abhi. So what time do you want the session? 6:30 to 7:30 or 7 to 8? So which is your convenient time? Can you let me know? So 6:30 to 7. Okay, so it will be a 1 hour session. So Saturday 1 hour we meet for a live session. Okay, so 6:30 to 7. All right, fine, considered. So shall we go forward with today's lecture? Yes, that is biodiversity and conservation. So let's see what we are going to discuss today. So we are going to discuss something very general. So meanwhile, which is also very important. All right. So here we go. So today's lecture 2 of biodiversity and conservation. All right. So what are the topics that we were discussing? What are the topics that we were addressing? So I was introducing the chapter to you. So what is biodiversity? Who coined the term biodiversity? So what are the different levels of biodiversity, right? And how many species are there on earth? How many in India specifically? And what are the patterns of biodiversity? The importance of species diversity to the ecosystem. So till the patterns of biodiversity we were done in the last class, right? So apart from that, we have to start today. Okay. So loss of biodiversity. Today we'll talk about the importance of species diversity to the ecosystem, the loss of biodiversity, biodiversity conservation, because so long I was emphasizing the importance of biodiversity. Now how do you conserve it? So that is what we are going to talk. Okay, so who coined? So do you remember the person? So why should we conserve biodiversity and how do we conserve biodiversity? So these are the some of the terms. Excuse me. Okay, so these are some of the topics that we are going to talk. Okay, so who coined the term biodiversity? Edward Wilson coined the term biodiversity. All right, Anthony Abhi? Yes? Okay. So now let's go forward. So it's a quick recap of what we were dealing with the previous lecture. So first I told you I described or defined what is biodiversity. So it is the combined diversity at all levels, right? And the person Edward Wilson called the term biodiversity, and there were 3 levels of biodiversity if you remember. The first one is genetic biodiversity. The next one is species. The third one is ecosystem level. So genetic biodiversity is biodiversity within species. For example, if there are 2 species of, so for example, say there are Labrador and German Shepherd dogs. So within them there is a diversity, right? So dog is one particular species. So within that particular species you have many varieties. So that is your genetic biodiversity. Then your species biodiversity. So species talks about different species. For example, the Eastern Ghats may be rich, having a rich biodiversity of amphibians compared to the Eastern Ghats. Okay, so the same species might be rich in some places, not rich in the other. The next one is ecosystem level biodiversity. For example, when you take up a desert ecosystem, then that has a different biodiversity compared to your tropical forest, right? So it differs. So that is what we are going to talk, that is what we were talking in your ecosystem biodiversity. Yes, Mamta, a very, very happy good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining my session. So please do like, share and subscribe. Okay, is this done? So this is what we were addressing. Apart from this, the next topic that we were discussing is how many species were there? So I told you it is not really possible for us to come to a direct conclusion or have a whole number as to how many species are there. So it was a logical assumption by a lot of educationalists. So one concluded number was by Robert Brown. He said totally we have 7 billion global species. All right. So then we went on to talk about what patterns do these biodiversity follows, right? So we spoke about the first pattern. So I guess I have the slides. Yes, patterns of biodiversity. So that was your latitudinal gradient, the first one that we were talking. So the species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator towards the poles. Okay, so this is the figure I showed you. So this is your equator line. So in the center you have high diversity, but as you deviate from the equator towards the poles, then the species diversity decreases. So I also told you tropics harbor more species than temperate or your polar areas. All right. So, but why tropics are more species rich or diversity rich? So that is 3 points I discussed. The first one is speciation. So speciation is a function of time and it happens over billions of years. For that, the place have to be left undisturbed for millions of years. So that leads to speciation. So that is why it has more variety of organism. The next one is it is less seasonal, meaning it is relatively more constant throughout the year than being susceptible to seasonal variations. Then point number 3, more solar energy is available in your tropics. Okay, so these are the 3 regions which makes it extensively or extremely rich. All right. So the next thing that we're talking about is a species area relationship. So it talks about as you go deeper into an area, the species richness increases, but it says only up to a certain extent. So as we are going into the depth of the forest, you can find more diverse species, right? But the depth is only till a level above which there is no forest. So the species richness is directly proportional to the area only up to a certain extent. So the scientist who gave this was Alexander von Humboldt. So he said within a region species richness increased with the increasing explored area, but it is only up to a certain limit. All right. So the relationship between species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola. okay, the curve. But on a logarithmic scale, it is a linear one. If you see species richness versus area, when plotted, it gives us a hyperbola, alright. But on a log scale, it becomes a linear line. So this hyperbola is S is equal to CA part Z. So when you apply log on both sides, it is log S is equal to log C plus Z log A, right? So you should remember this equation and you should remember what does each term stand for. S stands for species richness, A stands for area, Z stands for the slope of the line, that is your regression coefficient, and YC is equal to Y, that is your intercept. Alright, so the range of Z, that is your slope of the line, so that lies between 0.2 to 0.1 to 0.2. But for frugiose, so the birds that feed on fruits, the Z value is 1.15. So the slope is much steeper, meaning it increases to a maximum area and then it becomes static. Alright, is this clear? Yes, no doubt. So shall I move forward? So this was what I was teaching in my previous lecture. So now shall we go into the new part? Yes? Okay, so the importance of species diversity to the ecosystem. So initially when I started this chapter, so I had a bunch of questions asking like how the species diversity first came into existence. So is it very important to the ecosystem? So we don't know, right? So what is the species diversity? So people were clueless. Okay, so some people thought this diversity has no role to play in ecosystem. For example, we have 20,000 varieties of ants, right? Like I was telling you in the last lecture. So if one variety, if one type gets extinct, so what is the big deal? So if you have 200 crores and if you waste 1 lakh, it's not a big deal, right? Yes, you still have money. So what is the importance? So is it really alarming that everyone should wake up and start conserving? So let's see. So it was always believed that community with more species tends to be more stable. Okay, so what do you understand by a stable biological community? So scientists concluded that communities with more species, okay, a community with more species, it tends to be more and more stable. So what do I mean by exactly the stability of a biological community? Meaning it does not change, or what exactly do I infer from this term? So a stable community should not show too much variation in productivity from year to year. So a community with more species, okay, so will show less variations from year to year, meaning the year to year production is the same in terms of biomass. It will show less variation compared to the community with less number of species, okay. So a stable community should not show too much variation in productivity from year to year, and it must be resistant or resilient to occasional disturbances caused by man, and it should also be resistant to invasion by alien species. So here I am defining what is a biological community. So it's a stable community where the variation should be less from year to year. Okay, so you should be resistant or resilient to occasional disturbances like the man-made activities. Okay, and it should also be resistant to your invasion by alien species. Alright, so from the observation of David Tillman, so David Tillman did some outdoor activities and did some explorations, and he found out that in a stable community which has more species, the variation is less in a year, the variation is less from year to year in terms of biomass. So that is what David Tillman's observation told. So this person is important and his observation is also important. So David Tillman did some outdoor experiments and he said that a community with more species, okay, community which is species rich, it showed less variations from year to year in terms of biomass, and he also said that increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. So we are done with your ecosystem, right? So if you have more variety, then the tropic level, the contribution of animals in the tropic level will increase. So in turn, your contribution to productivity will also enhance, right? So that is what David Tillman's observation told us. Fine. Okay, so next there is something called as Rivet-Popper hypothesis, and it was proposed by Paul Ehrlich. So what is this Rivet-Popper hypothesis? So just like I told you, we have 20,000 varieties of ants. So what if one variety gets extinct? So what is the big deal now? It is not a big deal, right? So if we didn't know in the first place that 20,000 varieties existed, and after finding out that 20,000 varieties existing, and one species extinct, so what is the big deal? So we have no time to give thinking about it, right? So we are all so busy running about our own lives, so busy thinking about biology, physics, chemistry, right? Why are we going to concentrate? So what is the big deal in reality if one species is lost? So to help us understand the analogy, so Paul Ehrlich is a naturalist. He gave this Rivet-Popper hypothesis. For example, assume an entire aeroplane, right? So initially, if you pull out the seats in an aeroplane, the aeroplane will still function properly, right? So gradually, each passenger picks out something from the aeroplane and walks home. So finally, a day will come when the passenger will be left with only the wings. And if he pulls out the wings of an aeroplane, and then the aeroplane will not be able to function properly, right? So be it a smaller part, but gradually you will understand the importance, because everything in an ecosystem is connected. Everything in an ecosystem is interlinked. So that is called as a Rivet-Popper hypothesis. You understood what is a Rivet-Popper hypothesis? Yes, is it clear to everyone? Any doubts? Fine. So shall I move forward? Antonia B, we know, is it clear? Yes, I am moving forward to the next part. So this emphasizes the importance of a species diversity to the ecosystem. So next, moving and talking about the loss of biodiversity. So this is called as tropical specific islands, okay? See, we exactly don't know if right now the new species are being added to our biodiversity rich earth or not. So we are not sure, but we are very sure that we are losing some species from our biodiverse rich earth, right? So we don't know if things are being added, but we know they are getting eliminated because of the man-made activities, right? Okay, so one example was your tropical specific islands. So as humans started colonizing this group of islands, so nearly 200 species of birds were homeless. So nearly 200 species of birds became extinct, okay? So this is how we are trying to lose our biodiversity. So you have IUCN, right? International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resource, which I was talking about in the last class, if you remember. It is IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So that has given us a red list. So when it gives us a red list, it means species which are under threatening. So the red list is of threatened species which are nearing extinction. Okay. So this is from your ICUN site. Okay, you can just Google IUCN. So it has red list for threatened species. So it gives you the exact amount of species that are extinct, which are facing extinction, which lived sometime. So all these information is beautifully given. So just while preparing for your class, I had a glimpse of that website. It is really beautiful. So it is really alarming that we guys should wake up and see how many animals are actually existing. And hardly we have seen one or two animals in zoo, and for that only we are excited. If Earth is such biodiverse rich planet, then you should please have a look into this website, because you will know the present scenario of what is going on in wildlife conservation. So for the red list of threatened animals, so totally 128,000 species have to be assessed, and we have but our goal is only our goal is 1,60,000 species, but we have only accomplished 1,28,000. So 31 species are remaining to be assessed. So we don't know if they are getting extinct, if they are getting endangered. So we have no clue. We are just studying now. All right. So going forward, so you have a list of examples for animals that became recently extinct. Okay. So this is your quagga. Okay. So quagga is a type of zebra. So it has been nearly almost 50 years since this became extinct. So zebra, it does not have stripes all over its body. So only in the anterior portion it has a lot of stripes. Alright, so this is extinct. These are some of the examples that I want to show you. So this is your Tasmanian tiger. So it looks different, right? So this is also extinct. So we do not have. So this is your stellar sea cow. So this is a gigantic cow that roams in your sea. So this has also become extinct. And this is your dodo bird. So this is found in Mauritius. So this is also extinct right now. And finally you have 3 subspecies of tigers which are also extinct. So Bali tiger, Caspian tiger and Javan tiger. So all these 3 have also become extinct. So these are some examples of the species that have become extinct. Alright. And this was way before. Fine? Okay. So the loss of biodiversity. So when I'm talking about the loss, yes, I understand some animals are being lost, but some animals are more vulnerable to extinction than other group of animals. For example, if you look at amphibians, amphibians are more susceptible to extinction compared to other classes of vertebrates. Okay, so when you talk about the loss of biodiversity, let me tell you. So all last 20 years alone have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. Okay, so in all categories we are losing species, be it plants, be it birds, be it animals. All species we are gradually losing organisms. All right. So the loss of biodiversity may lead to, okay, so what is happening? If we are going to lose some species, so what is happening? So loss of biodiversity may lead to decline in plant production because flora and fauna are interconnected. So the loss of biodiversity will lead to decline in plant production. If plant is not there, so plants are your primary producers. If plants are all not there, then the entire system comes to a standstill. 2. Lower resistance to environmental perturbations such as drought. So if you have a decline in the plant production, then you will not have the resistance or the immunity to face perturbational conditions such as drought. That is abiotic stresses like drought, saline conditions, etc. Okay, so increased variability in certain ecosystem processes like plant productivity will be affected, water use, pest and disease cycles, so everything will change. So loss of biodiversity will lead to these 3 points. So please remember, so decline in plant production, lower resistance to environmental perturbations such as drought. Alright. Then increased variability in certain ecosystem processes. Then you have, so that will in turn play a role in your plant productivity, water use, pest and disease cycles. Alright. Yes, so biodiversity conservation is very important. Okay. So loss of biodiversity may lead to these 3 points. But what is causing the loss of biodiversity? What are the reasons for the loss of biodiversity? So we will look into the reasons. Okay. So I have a set of 4 reasons: habitat loss and fragmentation. So as the ever increasing human population is growing and growing and growing, so people are in short, people are in demand for land, right? So everyone wants to build a house. Everywhere you see buildings growing up. So before in the outskirts of the city, it was fully serene, it was fully forested area, right? But these days, if you travel outside the city, if you go to the outskirts, everywhere you can see tall apartments coming up, right? I'm not blaming the person who's building the apartment. There is a need. That is why he is investing. So which in turn means our population is ever growing. So in a nutshell, we are taking over the forested area also. So this forested area, when we are trying to enclosed, so that a lot of animals become shelterless, a lot of animals become homeless, right? So the tropical forest, which was more than you can say 24% in land area, today, because of human colonization, it is less than 6% right now. So 24% it contributed to the entire land area, tropical forest, but today it is contributing to less than 6%, which means understand how much we have colonized. So this has left a lot of plants and animals lot of animals shelterless, and it has killed a lot of variety of plant species, right? So your Amazon forest, slowly people have started encroaching the periphery of your Amazon forest. Still people have not gone into the depth, but slowly in the periphery they started colonizing. So that is called as habitat loss and fragmentation. So if you have an entire piece of land, and in bits and pieces in corners, if you start taking up the land, so that leads to fragmentation, right? For example, there are some organisms which lives in the interior of the forest, some on the periphery. So it leads to a lot of fragmentation, and this is the reason why we are losing biodiversity. All right, over exploitation. So when the need turns to greed. So need, I understand, if you have to feed yourself for 3 times, that is need. But if you want to feed yourself at the cost of putting others hungry, then that is greed, right? So right now, human beings are more of human doings, like I told you, and we are more greedy for everything, right? So if a particular plant is giving us more yield, if a particular plant is giving us a new product, so we are all business minded, we try how to genetically modify them, how to make money out of it, right? So we are trying to over exploit. So robots are not very far, clones are not very far. So very soon we'll be in an environment where you look at yourself, because clone becomes legal. Okay, that is over exploitation. So very soon all that will happen. Then alien species invasion. So your diversity tends to be constant or tends to be in equilibrium as long as there is no external disturbance. The moment external disturbance happens, then the entire genetic equilibrium or the equilibrium of your ecosystem is disturbed. For example, you would have heard about your water hyacinth, right? So how it is called as the terror of Bengal. So how it spread through such a long distance. So here I have another example. So this is your Nile perch, okay? So what happened is, when it was let inside this water, it killed nearly 200 species of other small fishes. So this is called as alien species invasion. So these 200 species were native to this water, to this region. But when one different species, or when one foreign species known as Nile perch was introduced, then it killed, or nearly 200 species of fishes became extinct. So this is also quite alarming, right? So these are the reasons which lead to the loss of biodiversity. The last one is co-extinction. For example, if I don't come to class, then your schedule is also getting disturbed. Our portion is getting accumulated, right? So when I'm taking class and you're listening, it is a two-way bonding, right? So you come to class and I come to class. So I teach, you listen. So for such a long time, if I take a holiday for 2 months, then what will happen? To your status, all the portions will be stagnated, you will have doubts, you will end up getting frustrated, the entire chain is getting disturbed. So if I say only some species of animals are getting disturbed, so plants which are dependent on that animal species will also face extinction, because they are coexisting. For example, a lot of plants are dependent on animals for pollination, right? So if the animal species becomes extinct, so how will the pollination of the plant occur, and how will the plant progeny survive? So that is called as co-extinction. So these are the 4 reasons for the causes of your biodiversity losses. Okay, so these 4 reasons lead to your biodiversity losses. Is this much clear? Yes, no doubt? So shall I move forward to the next part? That is the last part of your chapter. Any other doubt? No? Fine. So this I told you, it's called this Nile perch in the Nile River. Okay. So long we have been talking about biodiversity, the importance of biodiversity, and we also spoke about how biodiversity is gradually decreasing, what it might lead to if there's complete loss of biodiversity, and what are the causes that is leading to the loss of biodiversity. So all these we were talking about, right? So now, how do you conserve biodiversity? So what is the solution? So what are we thinking about? So we know we have to conserve species, but it's that we are not having enough funds, we are not having enough people who are conscious, all that matters, right? Even now, if a tiger comes inside the city, what we do? If a cheetah walks inside an apartment, what we do? We hit it, okay? If a snake comes, what you do? You literally kill it, right? Come on, man, just think before. You have encroached their area. They have not encroached your area. So slowly, humans take up all the area that belongs to them. And if they have nothing to go, nothing to eat, then they walk into your house. So if you are that decent enough, that civilized enough category of human beings, feed them. That is what you can in turn show them. That is what you owe them. Okay. So slowly, you're digging up forest area. You can say, ma'am, I don't have my house in a forest area. Come on, it's the entire mistake of the entire human population. I'm not blaming each and everyone, and I'm not appreciating anyone in exception. So everyone is at fault. Directly or indirectly, we are also paying tax. Directly or indirectly, we are also contributing to the wrong part, right? Yes, so everything is related. So everywhere, somewhere, we are also contributing to the wrong. So if an animal, there were so many newses, right? So there was once a tiger which came inside a house. There was once cheetah that came inside an apartment. Yes, of course they will come because you have taken up the area. So where will they go? So this much of mature thinking is not there because from the scientific point of view, from the importance of biodiversity, no one is thinking. So we just want the tiger out. We just don't want any disturbance. We have to live in peace. But this is not going to be sustainable because peace comes when you have this policy of live and let live. Okay. So yes, the population is ever increasing. I don't know when it will come to a full stop, when it will halt, but only the human population is increasing and all the other population is decreasing. That is the saddest part. So once again, if an animal walks into your apartment, into your compound, so please do not hit, please do not shoo it away, please do not scare it. Please inform the forest department or please inform the nearby officials so that they can handle it in a way it has to be handled. Okay, so directly killing, no, please don't do. So at one point you have encroached their house, their progeny. So now if they are coming to you for help, so it's our responsibility to help. So at the end of the day, we are all living creatures. We are all having the same grounds. So all of us fight for food. Even we work day and night. You are studying day and night so that you can have 3 meals a day, right? So that is their agenda. So that is what they're also living for. So how do you know Earth is yours? When you unofficially claim Earth is yours, then they have equal right to claim Earth is theirs as well. So please follow this live and let live. So I've seen websites where they throw where your dog has been injured because a household threw hot water on the dog because it was barking. They have equal right to stay equally with you, right? So it's not that you can throw hot water just because the dog cannot respond in a language that you understand. So I can tell you we are a bunch of fools. So sometimes when you talk about the understanding and the cognitive power of animals, it is much higher than humans. Okay, so you love elephants. So okay, so there's something called as Elephant Care. There's a web page. So please go, and there are a lot of elephants which are suffering because a lot of varieties of elephants are becoming extinct. So just read through the page. It is very lovely, and at the same time it is very touching. So if you can donate, so please donate. If you can become a volunteer, if you can contribute in some way, so please do. Anthony Abhi, what is my favorite animal? Actually, I love animals more than human beings, but my favorite is dog. And yes, of course, even I like elephants, even I like cows. Yes, a lot of animals are my favorite. Yes, I like fishes also. So yes, animals, I have a lot of varieties, okay? Yes. So how are we going? I like pandas also. So pandas are very jovial. So if you don't be with a panda for straight 7-8 hours, if the panda is alone, the panda becomes stressed. It will just go sit in one corner and it will be so gloomy. So you have to console it just like you're consoling a baby. So that is something very sweet. So I used to watch a lot of animal videos. So before, when I was in my school days, I used to watch a lot of National Geographic channels. But now I have completely away from TV. So whenever I get time, so I used to go to National Geographic webpage. So now everything is Google, right? So I used to watch animals there. So it is very interesting. Yes, I do love a lot of animals. Okay. So biodiversity conservation. So before talking about biodiversity conservation, let's see how biodiversity is contributing to our welfare. So biodiversity, the usefulness of biodiversity can be contributed to narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian and ethical. So utilitarian is use, okay? So I am interesting. So thank you, Anthony Abhi. So narrowly, so only for humans how it is useful, broadly how it is useful to the ecosystem as whole, and what is the ethical issue. So ethical issue, just like I told you, so we are colonizing, we have encroached the forest areas, but when an animal comes inside your house, you try to kill it, right? So please have some ethical morals so that we treat animals and plants with equal respect. Talking about broadly utilitarian, how a biodiversity is important for ecosystem, and I guess by now you should have understood because we have completed the chapter ecosystem, right? So your carbon dioxide fixation is done only when you have increased biodiversity. So what does the forest provide us with? Rainfall, carbon dioxide, fresh air, they purify the air, they reduce pollution. So all that comes under broadly utilitarian, right? Then narrowly utilitarian. So narrowly utilitarian, how only to human beings it is useful. So how many medicinal plants do you have? So all the chemical medicines that are coming, all the English medicines that are coming, at one point their ingredient should be a natural compound. Okay, so that is plants. So today you have so many aloe vera gels, right? Yes, so many industries are producing. But the plant is a living plant, right? You're trying to exploit it, that is different. But in a way, it is being useful to you, right? So many medicinal plants are there, so which we are using it as drugs today. So in a way, they are narrowly utilitarian. So without plants and animals, yes, we cannot live our life. So we need a recombinant protein, we need a transgenic animal to study the disease, we need a transgenic animal to study the vaccine, how the vaccine works, and then but we will not let them live in peace. So that is how we should be actually ashamed at a situation right now. But no, none of us are ashamed. I don't know why. But that is narrowly utilitarian, then it is broadly utilitarian, and that the other one is ethical. All right. So narrowly utilitarian, humans derive countless direct economic benefits from nature, that is food, products and food and products of medicinal purpose. Then broadly utilitarian, so biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services that the nature provides. Ethical, related to what we own to millions of plants, animals and microbes. Yes, so this is the use of biodiversity. So how are we going to conserve this biodiversity? So one is in situ conservation. For example, in a particular area, for example, you have Gir forest, right? So Gir forest, lions are very famous. So these lions, if you have to conserve, you can conserve them on the side. In the Gir forest itself, you can make some measurements so that the lions are being conserved right there. Okay, so that is in situ, that is on the specific side. The next one is ex situ, so that is off-site conservation. You bring the animal to a specific place where you ensure its safety, its food, shelter, etc. So that is ex situ conservation. All right. So in situ conservation, so you are conserving the animal in its own environment. Okay. So that is when your biodiversity hotspots came up. So hotspots means areas that are extremely diverse rich. So they were termed as hotspots, okay? Because our main aim was to conserve the hotspots because it is rich in biodiversity. All right. So we have very levels of species richness and very high degree of endemism in these hotspots. So endemism means animal which is found only in that region and not anywhere else. The animal which is specifically found in a particular region and not anywhere else, they are called as endemism. Okay, in situ conservation, so we came up with the concept of biodiversity hotspots. Initially it was 20 and then finally it came up to 34. So today we have 34 biodiversity hotspots. So it is trying to conserve high biodiversity rich areas and also endemic species. Okay, so today for in situ conservation, so you have 14 biosphere reserves that acts as hotspot, 90 national parks and 448 wildlife sanctuaries where we are going on with your in situ conservation, on-site conservation. All right. So the next one is ex situ conservation. So threatened animals, animals which are nearing extinction. which means you have to preserve them or protect them from their natural habitat. So you bring them under human care and control. So they're taken out of the natural habitat and placed in special setting where they can be protected and given special care, like in a zoo, like in a laboratory care. So recently this was done for panda. So panda was taken from its natural habitat and artificially the habitat was mimicked. Like it has water, like it has bamboo, if you would have seen any videos on your social media. So that is ex situ conservation. So now did you understand the difference between in situ and ex situ conservation? Yes, is that much clear to you? Fine? Yes, this is your beautiful panda. Any other doubts? So with this, we are done with this chapter. So the more simpler you want to study this chapter, the more interesting it is becoming. So the more complicated you want to make, the more boring it will become. So please read the chapter with a lot of interest, because without the other organisms, you cannot live in isolation. So please put that in your mind. So always live with this policy, live and let live. All right? Yes? So we are done with chapter 3 in ecology as well. So we still have one more chapter, that is environmental issues, and we just have the unit reproduction in your class 12. All right. So in class 11, we are almost done with three and a half chapters in human physiology. So what is left is your biomolecules and plant physiology. So I will try to complete the syllabus as soon as possible. Then we'll have a quick one-shot revision of all the chapters. So that is what I've planned. So let's see how it works. Okay. So I have only one question today, so which I want to show it to you, because I will discuss the questions of ecology in a separate lecture. Okay. So a species facing extremely high risk of extinction in the immediate future is called as vulnerable, endemic, critically endangered, or extinct. So which of the following is the answer? So a species facing extremely high risk of extinction in the immediate future is called as vulnerable, endemic, critically endangered, or extinct. Endemic is meaning it is found in only one region. It is endemic to India. It is the origin is here. It is not present anywhere. That is endemic. Vulnerable, it is vulnerable to extinction. It can become extinct, and extinct is fully swiped off. So here the answer is critically endangered. So please remember, so you will get questions like this which you will not be able to answer, and that is when you will get angry on this topic, right? So as of now, it is pretty simple because I told it like a story to you. Only when you solve questions like this, you will get irritated. So it's okay. So the more questions that you're exposed to, the more questions that you solve, the better it gets. All right? Yes? So a species facing extremely high risk of extinction in the immediate future is called as critically endangered. So please take a note of this because it can be quite a tricky portion. All right? Yes? So was the class interesting? I know I didn't have many audience, but still. So whoever was listening, if you're happy, I am fine. Okay, so thank you for joining my lecture. So please stay tuned for more lectures on story of life on earth, and that's biology. So if you genuinely understood my session, so please do like, share and subscribe. So tomorrow we are meeting twice, one at 3 p.m. So we are going to finish your excretory system, and at 6:30 or 7. So we will talk about important questions from a particular unit. I will let you know which unit. All right? Yes? So please do subscribe my channel so that you get my lecture notification half an hour before my scheduled class. Okay, so Anthony Abhi is happy. So yes, even I am happy. I don't know if people found this topic interesting, but I found it very interesting to teach. So teaching a conceptual chapter is easy, but teaching chapters like this is what is challenging. Okay, so first the faculty should be interested in teaching chapters like this. Only then at least half will be reached to the student. So just like in a tropical ecosystem, only 10% energy is getting reached. So only if the faculty is energetic, then at least 3% to 10% will reach the student. So I guess Anthony Abhi understood the topic. So even I am happy. So thank you so much, Anthony Abhi, and thank you so much for all the others who have been a wonderful audience. So stay tuned. I will meet tomorrow. So until then, have a great day, great evening. So bye-bye and take care.